All right, today we're jumping right into a deep dive on the opening verses of Surah Al A, which is the 7th chapter of the Quran. We're going to really focus in on just the first two verses to unpack all the layers of meaning packed into these powerful opening statements. So let's get started.
So here's our game plan. We're going to break this down into 4 key parts. First, we'll tackle those mysterious disjointed letters that kick off the surah. Then, we'll look at what it means when the Quran calls itself a book. After that, we'll explore the Prophet's own state of mind, which the verse touches on directly. And finally, we'll unpack the 2 main purposes of this divine revelation.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the very first word of the surah, which, as you can see, isn't really a word at all, but 4 separate letters: Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad. And right away, this throws us into one of the most fascinating and heavily debated topics in all of Quranic studies.
So these letters have a special name, huruf muqatta'a, which basically means disjointed or abbreviated letters. You'll find them at the beginning of 29 different surahs, and interestingly, almost always in the chapters revealed during the Meccan period, a really tough time of opposition for the early Muslims. Now, they aren't pronounced as a word. Instead, you say each letter's name out loud: Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad. Their very presence has just captivated scholars for centuries, sparking this incredibly rich tradition of interpretation and deep theological thought.
So the million-dollar question is, what are they for? Are they some kind of code, a divine signature, or is it something else entirely? Well, let's dive into the main theories that scholars have put forward over the years.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting because each of these theories gives us a different lens to look through. The first one, the divine challenge, or ijaz, is probably one of the most widely held views. Think about it. The Quran is being revealed to 7th century Arabs who were absolute masters of poetry and language. So by starting with these basic letters, Alif, Lam, Mim, Sad, it's as if God is saying, look, this book, the one you say is man-made, is built from the exact same letters you use for your most beautiful poems. Go ahead, try to make something like it. It's a powerful, direct challenge about the Quran's miraculous nature. Then you have the tanbih theory, which means alert. This one is all about context. In Makkah, people would actively try to shout and make noise to prevent anyone from hearing the Prophet's recitation. So these letters, spoken slowly and distinctly, would have cut through all that chaos. They would have grabbed everyone's attention, signaling that something important, divine revelation, was about to be spoken. It's like a sacred call to silence. Of course, there are also symbolic interpretations. Some have suggested that maybe the letters are abbreviations, like Alif for Allah, Lam for Jibril, Mim for Muhammad. Or maybe they hint at the core themes you are about to find in that specific surah. A simpler idea is that they just function as names for the chapters, kind of like calling a file document A. And finally, you have what is in many ways the most profound position, that these letters are a divine secret. This isn't just giving up, it's an act of intellectual humility. It's an acknowledgement that when we're dealing with divine speech, there might be layers of meaning that are simply beyond our full grasp, known only to God. It invites us to ponder, not just to know.
And this quote really sums up that ijaz argument perfectly. It's not about solving a puzzle. The letters themselves are the proof. The miracle is that a divine message is woven from the most basic human building blocks of language, creating something that no human could ever hope to replicate.
All right, let's build on that. The verse doesn't just stop with those mysterious letters. Right after them, it defines exactly what this revelation is, using a very precise and important word, kitab, which we translate as book. The verse says, Kitabun unzila ilayk, a book revealed to you. Now, the choice of the word kitab is huge here. It's not just any old message from the heavens. It implies something much more specific, something structured. And this brings us to a really important distinction in Islamic theology. You see, the entire Quran is considered wahi, or divine inspiration, but not all wahi is a kitab. So what's the actual difference, and why is it so important that the Quran identifies itself as a kitab right here?
This chart really lays it out for us. Think of wahi as the umbrella term. It's the raw act of God communicating. It could be an idea, a vision, a single message, like the inspiration given to Moses' mother. That was wahi, but it wasn't a chapter in a holy book. A kitab, on the other hand, is much more specific. It means a complete, structured, and compiled text. The root word itself implies writing, ordering, and bringing things together. It's a revelation designed from the start to be preserved and recited as a coherent whole. So when this verse says, this is a kitab, it's making a statement. This isn't just a collection of random inspirations. It's a comprehensive and structured guide for all of humanity.
So after establishing that this is a book, the verse shifts gears and becomes incredibly personal. It speaks directly to the Prophet Muhammad, right to his inner feelings, acknowledging the unbelievable pressure he was under. And that brings us to the phrase, "So let there be no distress in your breast."
And this is a really deep question, isn't it? It sounds like a paradox. I mean, if you are God's chosen messenger, getting direct revelation, you'd think you'd be fearless, right? So why would you feel this distress? This part of the verse gives us a powerful look into the very human side of being a prophet.
The word used here is haraj, and to really get it, you have to appreciate its literal meaning. In classical Arabic, haraj describes a forest that's so thick with tangled trees that you can't get through it. It gives you this feeling of being trapped, constricted with no way forward. That's the feeling being described metaphorically. A deep psychological weight, an anxiety that feels like a real physical tightness in your chest. It's such a powerful and precise word.
So what was causing this profound haraj? Well, the commentators break it down into a few key sources. First, just the sheer weight of it all. This wasn't just any message. It was the final, universal message for all people for all time. Can you imagine that responsibility? Second, the pressure to deliver it perfectly. He was the vessel for God's literal word. The anxiety of transmitting it exactly as he received it without a single mistake must have been enormous. Third, there was the very human pain of knowing he would be rejected. He was delivering this message to his own family, his own tribe, his neighbors. He knew it would lead to ridicule and broken relationships. This was a daily, personal pain for him. And finally, and maybe the most moving reason, was his incredible empathy. His distress wasn't just for himself. It was a deep sorrow for the people who were rejecting the message, because he worried about what that would mean for their ultimate salvation. He felt their potential loss as a weight on his own heart.
So right after acknowledging that heavy feeling, this phrase comes as a direct act of divine comfort. It's God speaking directly to the prophet's heart, saying, "I know what you're feeling, and I am here." It's not a command to just toughen up. It's a divine intervention designed to lift that weight, strengthen his heart, and reassure him that he isn't carrying this burden alone.
All right, let's bring it home with the final piece of the puzzle. After acknowledging the prophet's burden, the verse then clearly spells out the two primary functions of this book. And it's fascinating because it shows how the book has a different effect on different people. So the verse lays out two functions, indar and zikra. Indar means a warning. This is for everybody, all of humanity, especially those who aren't paying attention or are in denial. The goal is to be an alarm bell, to wake people up and make them aware of the consequences of their choices. It's meant to be a jolt. On the other side of the coin, you have zikra, which is a reminder. And the verse is very specific. Its audience is lil mu'minin, for the believers. For someone who already has faith, the book isn't meant to be a shock. Instead, it's like a source of comfort and reinforcement. It's there to polish the heart, to remind them of their purpose, and to bring them a sense of peace and strength. It's like spiritual food for the journey.
And here's the exact phrasing from the verse itself. It's so elegant and efficient. لِتُنذِرَ bihi, that you may warn with it. That's the universal mission. وَذِكْرَ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and a reminder for the believers. That's the specific, nurturing role. Both purposes are laid out right there, side by side.
So think about that. The revelation itself is one. The words on the page are the same, but how they land depends entirely on the state of the heart that's receiving them. For a heart that's closed off, the message is a piercing alarm. But for a heart that's open, those very same words become a soothing balm, a source of incredible strength. The message doesn't change. Our own receptivity is what determines its effect on us.
And this really brings us to our final thought for today, something for all of us to reflect on. Knowing this dual nature of the text, how does that change the way we read it? When we open the Quran, are we looking for a warning to keep us on our toes? Or are we seeking a reminder to find peace and strengthen our faith? Maybe, just maybe, the richest way to engage with it is to make space for both, to allow ourselves to be both awakened and comforted by the same divine words.